If you like late model stock racing and high-performance street machines, this is your show. Once a year, we have a chance to cover the greatest stock car classic in the world. It happens in February at Daytona International Speedway. The annual Daytona 500 has perhaps focalized this little town in northern Florida as the speed capital of the world. On race day, this huge 2.5-mile oval seems like a city in itself. This year, over 103,000 people jammed into this shrine of speed, and if excitement sold for $1 a pound, you could become a millionaire. The hottest cars and the country's finest drivers were here to accept the challenge of the Daytona 500. Our road test car of the week, well, it's a sizzler from Buick. The 1973 Century Grand Sport Stage 1. It's an eyeball popper, I promise you. We'll meet you at the track as all cars push off for the start in 1 minute.
Buddy Baker, driving the Dodge number 71, has the pole position. Pete Hamilton in a Plymouth number 9 is alongside. And some big names like Cale Yarborough, Bobby Allison, Donnie Allison, David Pearson. They're all here, the biggest names in late model stock racing.
A jam-packed, history-making crowd of over 103,000 race fans watched the thrill makers from NASCAR take the parade lap in the 15th annual Daytona 500, the biggest stock car classic in America. Fastest qualifier Buddy Baker is on the pole. Pete Hamilton alongside. That makes it Dodge Plymouth up front. Then it's Cale Yarborough, Gordy Johncock, Herschel McGriff, Richard Petty, and A.J. Foyt. The green flag waves and Buddy Baker in the Dodge number 71 breaks out into the lead. The first 13 laps were under the yellow flag to dry out the track after morning showers. When the green finally fell, Cale Yarborough in the Chevy 11 fired into second place behind Baker like he was shot out of a cannon. Onto the tri-oval, it's Baker, Yarborough, Cuckoo Marlin, and Gordy Johncock fourth. Richard Petty moves up on the inside of Johncock to take over the fourth spot, with Baker and Yarborough running flat out. On the 20th lap, it's Baker, Yarborough, Petty, Johncock, and Foyt. And radar clocks them into the first turn at over 189 miles per hour. The 04 car is the first to pit. Herschel McGriff, the driver. He comes in for 2 right tires, a left rear, fuel, and he's off. Cale Yarborough in the Monte Carlo 11 is pushing Baker every foot of the way. They're setting a tremendous pace and clocking laps at over 188 miles an hour. Pearson, who started in the 20th spot and moving up strong, pulls in for his first pit stop of the day. Here's the leader, Buddy Baker, for fuel and tires. On the 34th lap, Pete Hamilton smokes his number 9 Plymouth into the pits with a blown engine. The second fastest qualifier is out of the race. Cale Yarborough screams his number 11 Chevy into the pits, and this is the way we recorded a Junior Johnson 21-second pit stop. 28th, the Lemon Tree Special, driven by Gordy Johncock, goes behind the wall, out of the race. Richard Petty's crew do a superb job and have that Dodge back on the track in 19 seconds. And on the high banks, Buddy Baker is the boy to catch. He has that number 71 K&K Dodge wound out tight. There they go in turn 4. Car number 42, Marty Robbins, lost it coming onto the tri-oval and slid along the wall for over 1,000 feet. Stayed out of the traffic, and he's okay. After that crash, the Grand Ole Opry star said he was singing 2 octaves higher for 3 days. This one drew a yellow flag, and pit row suddenly became the traffic center of Daytona Beach, Florida. With the cars back on the track, Buddy Baker leads them down for the restart. Cale Yarborough is second, Petty third. Baker's out in front with clear sailing. Meanwhile, Yarborough and Petty have to move up through the traffic. Bobby Allison pits his number 12 Chevy with a broken distributor. His crew put on a new one, and Bobby gets back in the race. Richard has moved right up into Yarborough's trunk now as they both battle it out for second. And with each lap, move a little closer to leader Buddy Baker. Here, Petty drafts on Cale's Chevy all the way down the tri-oval, but Yarborough stretches him a little as they go into turn 1. On this 88th lap, Petty's tires start to chunk, and he's forced to pit. The crew gives him new right-side rubber, a drink of water, an aspirin, clean the windshield, and refuel the car. 24 seconds later, they push him back on the track. On the 130th lap, the leader is still Buddy Baker in the Dodge number 71. Cale Yarborough second in the Chevy 11, with Petty in the Dodge 43 running third. Yarborough tries Baker high and low. His Chevy can run with the Dodge, but he doesn't seem to have the power to pass Buddy. Uh-oh, number 2, Dave Marcus, drops down onto the apron and heads for the garage. His Matador has just blown an engine. Just a few weeks ago, Mark Donahue put that American Motors entry in victory lane at the Riverside 500. But you can't win them all. Cale Yarborough gives Buddy Baker no rest as he chases him into every turn of the racetrack. Petty is third and seems to be pacing himself well. Bobby Isaac is running fourth in a Ford. Look out! Car number 49, driven by John Utzman, blew an engine coming onto the front chute and spun in his own oil. But he held it low, got into the infield, and he's all right. At the same time, going into turn 1, Cale Yarborough blows his engine into Monte Carlo and heads for the garage. With a yellow out, most of the field screams into the pits. The action is wild. Buddy Baker is in first. Number 43, Richard Petty. Along with tires and fuel, Bobby Isaac gets a new windshield. Number 96, Ray Elder, wheels his Dodge in. The Chevrolet number 50 with A.J. Foyt aboard. It all happens in seconds, and suddenly they all roar out. A few of them don't make it back into the race. It's all over for Cale Yarborough and Junior Johnson and the Chevy that ran so strong. But you can bet that these boys have got a big season ahead of them. On the restart, Baker is first. 4 cars back, Petty is second, with Bobby Isaac third. Richard fires past the slower cars, picks up his pace, and begins closing the gap on Buddy Baker. '15, Bobby Isaac holds on to third with Dick Brooks in the Dodge number 6 running a close fourth. With Cale out of the race, Petty takes up the challenge and works Baker over on every inch of the racetrack. But both drivers know they haven't enough fuel to go the distance. Both cars must hit one more time. This is the kind of racing that makes NASCAR number 1. On the 189th lap, 11 more to go, and Richard dives into the pits for fuel only. Maurice and the crew give him just enough to finish. He's out in 9 seconds. Now it's Baker's turn. Fuel only. Harry Hyde and the crew have him rolling in 8 seconds. Cars refueled, Petty has the lead. 10 laps to go, and Baker has the piston swapping holes in his Dodge, trying to close the gap on Richard. It's another Daytona duel. Petty with the lead, and Baker is closing on him at the rate of about 1.5 seconds per lap. Can he do it? Suddenly, it happens. Entering turn 3, Buddy Baker just blew the belly out of his Hemi, and the Dodge that led most of the race had the fastest time, and with only 6 laps to go, looked destined for victory lane, now heads for the garage, out of the race. Buddy Baker limps his car into the pits with undoubtedly the heartbreaker of the year. While on the track, Richard Petty whips his number 43 under the white flag with 1 more lap, and it's all his. Down off the high bank, 4th turn, onto the tri-oval, and the Petty Blue flies under the checkered flag, winner of the 15th annual Daytona 500. Bobby Isaac finished 2nd with Dick Brooks 3rd, A.J. Foyt 4th, and Herschel McGriff 5th. Brother Maurice and a jubilant crew pushed Richard's car into victory lane. And there's a couple of questions still unanswered. With 6 laps to go, could Baker have caught him? If so, would he have been able to pass him? We'll never know. But Richard Petty has just won the biggest, richest, and most important stock car race in the world. And he's done it for the 4th time. This new Buick Grand Sport Stage 1 is as close as we've been to a supercar since 1971. Without a doubt, Buick Division is making an honest attempt to build better cars. And this one puts them in a class by themselves. With today's popularity of recycling, it came as no real surprise that Buick returned to the Century nameplate. There's a total of 25 new model Buicks to choose from, and 9 of them fall in the intermediate or Century line. Our tester was the Grand Sport and was hatched in Buick Engineering's muscle department. They promised us some excitement when we took delivery of the car, and much of it was caused by this 455 cubic inch high-performance mill under the hood, topped off with a 4-barrel carburetor and a whole gang of exhaust emission control devices. Even though they hindered breathing, performance was good. In our bury the foot game, it felt strong. 30 miles an hour came after only 3.2 seconds. This is as close to a supercar as anything we've had since breathing clean air became popular. 50 miles an hour happened 5.8 seconds after we left the line. 70 miles an hour took 10.4 seconds, and she broke through the traps at the end of the quarter mile in 15.3. And out of today's showroom, that's good. For a long time, Buick brakes have been some of the best in the industry. They still are. This 30-mile-an-hour stop took 41 feet. Front disc brakes are standard this year on the Century model, and heat dissipation was excellent. This stop from 50 ate up 89 feet. After several high-speed stops, brake fade was only minimal. All stops were made in a good straight line. This one from 70 took 203 feet. With a stiffer suspension, nosedive was very slight. We wanted to see how this suspension system would look under the severest strain, so we put it through the reverse spin. It went through the 180 degrees like she could do it all day long. The pylon course gave us little or no problems. Body lean was very slight. Going from a hard right to an immediate hard left turn, there was a slight hesitation in the steering wheel, caused by a failure of the power steering unit to keep up with the demand on the wheel. However, it was not bad. In some cars, the pause is so great and wheel movement so difficult that we're unable to run through the pylons. Even with an increase in speed to 40 miles per hour, rebound and recovery were excellent. The AccuDrive front suspension allowed very little wandering or wallowing. This forward spin proved the car to be very predictable. We've only tested a very few cars this year that we could push through the turns at high speed and stay on the track. This Grand Sport was one of them. While this 455 cubic incher only delivered 270 net horsepower, there was still enough wallop to drive it through the corners with the throttle. With the Grand Sport, Buick offers an excellent compromise between good handling and a smooth ride. This intermediate series shares many features with the big Buicks, such as a double panel roof construction, disc brakes, fiberglass underhood insulation, and AccuDrive that combines tailored suspension and steering geometries with engine mountings, suspension bushings, and body mountings specifically selected for each model. Buick officials told us that each part on every engine is checked to see if it works properly before it ever leaves the sub-assembly plant. Then each installed part is fed in a central computer during build-up. So before the engine is ever fired up, they know how well it'll run and how pure its exhaust will be. Remember, our test car is a Grand Sport with a heavy-duty suspension and greater power package. Other models in the Century line will not handle this well. In this stop action, the car was in a four-wheel drift, stayed flat and controllable through a very difficult reverse camber turn at over 75 miles per hour. There was a lot of talk about Buick's successes at the drag strips in 1972. This performance talk was carefully woven into the theme that computer checking and quality control not only produce good, clean engines, but good, clean racers. This is not an old man's car, and it might be that the GS Stage 1 is Phase 1 in a program to alter Buick's entire image.